Hello, St. Lucia, and welcome back to the Information Command Center. I am Lisa Joseph, and we're welcoming you to a very special session. It's going to be the first in a series of discussions with the St. Lucia Electoral Department. And we know that St. Lucia is due to go to the polls, and that is constitutionally due at the latest in October of 2021. The Electoral Department has been readying itself for the polls whenever that is called. And of course, the department has been very feverish in what it has been doing, and the preparation for the polls began long before 2021. So in studio with me to start off the first in our series is Ms. Olympia Lionel. She's the Assistant Chief Elections Officer, as well as Mr. Kenya James, who is the Network Administrator. Welcome. We will be discussing the registration process. We're taking it up from the very, very beginning. And we'll also be sharing some information with you on the website of the Electoral Department, what's contained there, and how you can access it, make the information work for you as well, because that's very, very important, not just for you to be able to click the button, but also know how to read and understand what's there and how you can allow that information to assist you in making some of your decisions. So we'll start off with the registration process and what does it really mean for us. But let's get a sense from Olympia Lionel, the Assistant Chief Elections Officer, as it pertains to the preparation of the Electoral Department for the pending general elections.
Well, for us at Electoral Department, registration is key. We've been doing continuous registration. What St. Lucians need to know, that registration is voluntary. No one forced you to come and register. And for you to register, you need to be a citizen of St. Lucia. You have to be 18 years, a Commonwealth citizen, living 7 years continuously. And once you have met those requirements, you can come into our office with your birth certificate and a letter from NIC to be registered.
But that registration process is ongoing throughout any given year?
Yes. Well, for us, registration, like I said, is continuous. We have registered, and what we do this year, because of COVID, we extended our services beyond. We have a number of outdoor centers where we have continuous registration in those centers, open Monday to Friday. We also implemented a mobile service where we will go into the various communities, like constituencies, for the weekends. We will go into the various constituencies. Right now we are in Roselle. And what we are doing that to achieve, we find sometimes during the election period, persons with the last minute to come and register. And to avoid all of that, we have extended our services in the various communities and established those centers there from September. They had been established, one in Dennery North, one in Soufre, and one in Brozili. So we have those ads running every day to let persons know where we located, our numbers, and what they need to register.
Okay, so let's walk through that registration process as slowly as possible,
Sure.
Because we want everyone to be able to go out and exercise their franchise. Before you can even begin to believe about going to cast that ballot, you must be able to qualify for you to be a voter. So who qualifies for that registration process before you can go cast that ballot?
Okay, well, again, you have to be a citizen of St. Lucia. You have to be 18 years of age. You have to, if you're a Commonwealth citizen living here for 7 years continuously, that would qualify you to come in to do the registration.
So is there an additional process that someone has to go through?
Then you need the requirements, which means you'd have to go to the registry to get your birth certificate. And NIC no longer uses a card. Before they were using a card. So now they use a letter. So as part of our law, in terms of the requirement, you need to get a letter from NIC and your birth certificate. If you are non-national, then you get your citizenship and your birth certificate and a letter from NIC.
Okay, and that enables you to
be registered.
To be registered.
So you visit any of our centers or our main office in Castries, or we have a sub-office in Beaufort as well. You go to any of those registration centers and then you would be registered.
So what is that registration process?
The step-by-step registration process, when you get to our registration location, for example, I'm using Castries, you'll be greeted by our security that will direct you into the customer service desk. Our system is designed in a way that when you get to the customer service desk, the rep there would take your information, whatever you present, if it's your birth certificate, whatever you present, we would search into the system to see whether you had an ID card already. She would then use either the name, the date of birth, whatever information she has before her, she would use it to search to see whether you have been registered before or whether you're a new registrant. If you're a new person, then again the letter would qualify her to put in your information to match it with what NIC has on the system. And then she would then give you a number to go and wait so you can proceed to the interviewing booth where you would be photographed and your data would be entered and then your fingerprint would be scanned, etc.
And then that you would be issued.
Yes, and then it would give you a date where you can collect your ID card, and collection is within 5 days. And you come in with a slip to collect your ID card.
Now, the letter from NIC, does someone need to come to your office first? Do you need to go to the Electoral Department first? And so that you can be given a request for that letter from the NIC? Well,
not bound to. Like you say, again, on our website, we have our information, what are the requirements for registration. We have it posted everywhere, and most times persons still don't get it. They would come into the office, and what we would do at the customer service desk, we have a checklist. We have a checklist for all the different requirements, change of name, change of address, whatever you come in to do, whatever service you come in to do. So if you come in for your first time, the person would give you a checklist to tell you this is what is required of you. You need to go to NIC, you need to get your birth certificate, etc., and you return.
Can I speak on that?
Of course, can you?
Let me just speak on the NIC letter. People would hear the NIC letter and think it's something different. It's actually your NIC number that's contained in that letter. But instead of NIC issuing the card, they would issue a letter which contains a hash code. Then Electoral then generates that number for you to go onto your ID card. So it's actually your NIC number, but in the form of a hash code.
Okay, so it's not anything that
would lead to
or anything of that sort. But certainly you would need that from the NIC and the telephone call to the NIC, because someone can walk into the office and say, "Well, I don't have that letter with me. Can you just call and give them my name?" It doesn't work that way.
No.
And why is it so definitely important to have it in the form of a letter from the NIC?
You see, in the past, in fact, right now, what we're trying to do is it's two-pronged. We're trying to clean up our data as well. So what we're doing is more of a verification on our end when someone comes into our establishment. So if it's something a card you've had from, let's say, 1979, we would ask you to go to NIC to get your information verified, make sure that everything is okay on NIC's end. So that you do that, then you come back to us with that letter, and it's seamless. The process is real quick.
And so that NIC letter or the information contained, your number, NIC number, so forth, it has any special meaning? Because you talk about verifying the information and updating information. What does it say about the individual?
But nothing per se. Is just that the number, since NIC has stopped issuing the physical card that they used to issue, they decided to create it in the form of a hash code where the person just gets this letter and goes to Electoral. Electoral then generates it, then you could see the person's information that NIC has as well.
Right.
So we could do
but that can also be used to verify whether the person has been continuously in St. Lucia by way perhaps of employment payments.
No, not so far. Not so far. Yeah.
So it does not
basic information
into the individual.
No.
Okay, just wanted to be able to establish that. And so, but there are it speaks to the Elections Act. We're not going quite deep into that, but it does speak about qualifying dates for registration. Explain to us what that means.
Well, we have two qualifying dates for registration, the 15th of February and the 15th of July. So you have persons turning 18. If you come in to register in, let's say, this year, and you come to register on the 16th of February, because of how they publish in the voters list, you would not see your name appearing on that voters list not until the next qualifying date, which is the 15th of July.
And that would mean, so even though you were to go in, but you do not appear on the list,
yes,
it means then that you're unable to vote?
Yes, depending on the duration of time that they call the election.
Okay, so that is something people must be mindful of.
Yes.
So can you just repeat that for us?
Well, we have two qualifying dates, the 15th of February and the 15th of July. So somebody turning 18 on, another example, Kenny.
Okay, let me just summarize what she's trying to say.
Okay.
You must be 18 on or before those two qualifying dates, February 15th and July 15th. Yeah, to be qualified to come into the voters list.
So it's
you
just
must
like
be
if you were
18.
to send your child to school.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you're entering your child into infant school, if you want, or kindergarten as it is called now.
Yeah.
Right.
You must be 18 on or before those two qualifying dates.
So if you're not before or on, like he said, then that's a process you'd have to wait. So even if you have your ID card in your hands and you turn 18, because you would have the ID, you turn 18, you have your ID, whatever, but depending on how the list is printed, you'd go and look for your name. You would not see your name there, so your name would be in the other publication.
And so that would mean that you would have to wait till the next general elections in order for you to be able to do that.
But that too, Lisa, in our PR for education during that election process, they were supposed to have some amendment with regards to this. I'm not too sure what would happen, but we would come back to St. Lucian's as it relates to the qualifying date. Whatever has changed or whatever, we would do some more education on it.
Okay. And let's talk a bit about the individuals for, it is permanent once you have registered. So you've gone in and you've registered. But in terms now of where I live, because people change residence all the time.
Yes.
So I perhaps would have been registered, you know, say for example, living at Pavey, but I've, you know, been switched now and you probably live up at Grosley. What do you do? Is it an automatic that once you have changed your residence that you go and as a change to where you vote?
It would
or
be,
to your registration?
It would be very good if St. Lucian's were using that method you're saying. But you see a lot of the change taking place in an election year. Because you have persons that have moved from Strozel, Labrie, they've been living in Castries, they purchased a house in Castries, and they're not coming to change their address. But for some reason, sometimes in an election year, you get the pace a little more. Persons come in more regular to change their address. You cannot put pressure on anybody if they don't want to change their address, but it's something they do freely. But what we would do, you have to be living in that address 2 months continuously. And the requirements to do so, you would need to come with a proof of change of address. Maybe you'd come with a bill. And if you have nothing, we have our verification team that would go to the address that you change and verify to make sure that you say you're living there, you are living there. We have a team who goes out there to do the verification process of that change of address.
So that sounds like a very, very, very tedious task, isn't it?
Well, I would not say it's tedious. When you present yourself at the department and you ask to change your address, we try to make everything a little, we try to make you comfortable in terms of once you have the requirements or you do not have the requirements, the other thing that would help you is to just tell you, give us that information, and we would be coming to verify you. So even if you tell me you don't have a bill, you don't have this, but you've been living there for X amount of years, all I tell you is to take a little more time, but our team would be coming to that location you describe to verify that you live in there.
Okay. Now, are there any penalties? Because if one were to be found wanting of truth in that regard?
In terms
Have you ever encountered anything of that sort at the Electoral Department? Where
we
someone may say they live in one area, but you found that not to be the case?
We found a few. When we go there and the person would say, the person don't live there, what we would have to do is to call you back to let you know the change cannot go through because we came in person and we were told you don't live there at all. And even when we were told, like example, they would say, Olympia don't live at that address, but she lives at Pavi. We would go a little further to verify that other address as well before we even say the person not living there and before we even reject it at all.
Okay.
And then the other thing too, people have a right to object. So if you figure out during the season, persons are saying the address, that's not true. The people, we have an objection form where you have a period of time to do that, claim an objection, and we at Electoral Department, we're hoping that you saying that the person, Kenya don't live there, or Olympia don't live there, you'd bring that kind of data into our organization, and our team would make sure go out there to verify that data.
Okay, so that's comforting. Now, most people want to change a change of name. How does that happen, and is that something you facilitate during the quote-unquote election year? Okay,
what I forget to say about the change of address, it's free of charge. There's no fee to the change of address. But the change of name, once you change your name, for example, you change it through marriage, you change it through maybe rectification, deed poll, you would come into our office with that document that you change your name with your birth certificate, and we would send you to pay. It's a fee of $30. We don't accept monies at Electoral Department. We send that customer to the government treasury to pay the $30, and we continue the process.
And what about, so people lose their ID cards all the time? I'm sure you come across that.
The lost
what
ID,
happened?
Again, the lost ID, we understand persons' bags are being stolen, and that's Electoral has implemented every year. That's our way of assisting. We actually waiver the fee of the $100 during International Democracy Month, which is September. And it has become a pattern because St. Lucians are actually looking forward. And last year, because we were coming into this election year, we had extended it to at least 3 months. Because you find a lot of persons are coming in to say they misplaced their bags, etc. But you also have persons that is 70 years and over, which is, they can be exempted. The chief elections officer have that kind of power to exempt them. You have persons now coming with the government cards. They are unable to work. They have disabilities. Once you can give us the proof, you are exempted if your card is stolen.
Yeah, and also a police report would exempt you as well from paying the fees. Yeah, if you're able to get a police report, then you'll be exempted from paying the fees.
So what happens, I know this will be jumping a little bit, but it still has to do with your registration process and your ID, that perhaps on election day you discover that you do not have that ID card and it may have been misplaced. What happens then?
Oh, well, Lisa, you don't need an ID card to vote. According to the law, you can come in. We have what we call our master list or the poll copy that is sent to the polling station. They would identify you by that copy, so you can use this to vote.
Actually, any form of ID, any form of picture ID, you could vote. If as long as your name is on there, you could use that form of picture ID to vote.
Yes.
And so that's no barrier there.
No barrier there.
The barrier. And again, like I said, that's something we have on our priority list, so we can make sure we educate the population on the requirements that they can use to go and vote.
And for how long does it take now for you to have that replacement?
Within 3 days. Within 3 days. Once you have your police report or you have whatever it takes, you come into the Electoral Department again, like I said. We have a process where we have a declaration form. It's on our website. As soon as you get to the customer service desk, again, like I said earlier on, we have a checklist for all the services that we offer. So they will tell you what you need, where you need to go and pay. We give you that A form. You go to the treasury. When you return, within 3 days, you would collect your card and you have to recapture.
Okay. So you have now given the electorate more information so that they can become empowered for that voting process, and of course just to really understand the electoral process for St. Lucia, understanding the history as well. So Kenya is going to take us through the work that has been done on the website for the Electoral Department. And so Kenya, it's over to you to give us an understanding of what we can find once we click on the website. First of all, what is the exact address?
It's sluelectoral.com. Okay, let me just give you a bit of history why we decided to do such on the website. You'd appreciate back in the day where the voters list is been printed and published. You'd have to physically go to maybe a community center, a police station in your community, a library, a school, or sometimes even a bus shelter.
Or shop.
Or the local tea boutique or something, yeah, to get that, to get your name verified or to check your name if it's actually on the list. But what we've done now, one of the main features on our site is to create this voter lookup, where you could just get on there, you would see it, you'd actually see the finger with the red ink on there, so you'd know his elections. You could search in two ways, well actually free, by your registration number, your first name, last name, and also your district. And the list, that part of the site actually been updated every time the list is being published. So you could go on there every March 31st to check the revised list. Every June and December for the supplementary as well, your name will be there. Also on that site, you can get statistical data of the candidates, past elections, of our commission as well. You could also get
the requirements for candidates, the requirements for persons registering as well, with the statistical data list. So what we have noticed, and that's one of the new features here too, persons are coming in to ask for our reports, our election report from 1979 down, and some of them we just have one copy, etc. So for this year, what we did, we actually did an upgrade, and persons can go out there to look for it. We actually gathered that statistical data from 1979 to 2016, box by box, for the 17 constituencies for 10 years. So somebody can go there now, if we don't have the report available, and go and do the analysis there. So that's something they can look out for. It's there, it's uploaded there now.
So can, in terms of what, to Olympia's point, someone interested in the historical data and so forth, how easy is it for us to be able to access and to understand what's there?
Very, very easy. It's very seamless. You could get pictorial views of the data as well.
Yes.
As long as I think we have some in some PDF formats.
Yes.
And some of the tabulated properly. It's very easy to understand. Broken down in bit by bit. Now we're actually trying to get the results on there per, I think it's per box.
Yes, it's there.
It's there?
For the 10 years, that's the 1979 to 2016, it is there. When you go, for example, you're doing Grosley for the 10 years, instead of walking to our office now to ask for the report book for 19 whatever, you can go onto our website and you would follow through. What is missing, and we would be very happy that persons can contribute towards that part of the website. We are missing photos because you have some persons that went up in 1979, maybe they are deceased. So if their family come on there and they see it, whatever, they can at least give us a little picture. Because some of them, you have one candidate, you don't have another. It's only because we did not get another photo. But the photos are there, and the figures are there for that 10 years.
So how can one assist in donating some of those photographs?
When they come onto the site and they go to the past results, it's right there on the results, and it's past results, and you'd see 40 years and beyond. And the person can just call us or drop the picture as they go through and tell us they have a picture of somebody that is missing.
Make it easy.
But we believe it will be very useful because persons have been calling, and a lot of St. Lucians during that period, that season, they come in to get that kind of information, or they call on the phone. Most times what we had to be doing was to make a photocopy for them, Because sometimes they will tell us they want 1979 or 2012 to 2016, and sometimes they have to pay just to make a photocopy or just purchase the report. And if you're only just concentrating on just the data in there, the figures, you might as well get it on the website now.
So, Kenya, in terms of being able, you spoke about pictorials and now graphs and so forth to assist in that the dissemination of the data. How comprehensive is it when we're looking at the constituencies in terms of the makeup of the constituencies? So have we done anything to improve on that? Do we now have updated data on that? On the makeup of the constituencies?
I would say yes, especially with the 2016 election. If you go, you would see all the constituencies and the communities in the constituency. If you're talking about Grozili A1, we have a place on the website where we have all the communities in A1 and where you're voting, what polling station you're at. So that is to be updated as soon as we finalize our polling station for this year's election. Yeah. Again, we would come and use one of the all forums to educate the public as to what has changed and where should they go and look to see where they're voting.
You wanted to add something, Kenya?
No, I was about to add that the site is as recent as the last elections. So you get info from the last elections, and what is about to change will also be made available on the site as well. So information that you need as to where you're going to vote, like Ms. Lionel said, that will be there. Any new polling stations that we're going to be creating will be there as well. The public would like to know where they're going to be voting. So stuff like that will be made available. As soon as it's finalized, it's on the site.
Because persons have been calling Lisa to ask with COVID, is there any changes? And since our plan is in the making and we waiting to finalize everything so we can come back in a nutshell to give St. Lucians that kind of information. Another interesting feature on our site, once the election date is there, we have a feature which is a countdown feature. So it goes down, persons follow that a lot, quite a bit.
And then so that they can keep themselves abreast. Yes. And I suppose would there be tips come on the website as well?
Yes, we do that. We send tips every day.
We also
once that countdown is set.
Yes.
But I'm not sure if you want to delve into this. We also have our mobile app. It's basically the site, but made a little smaller and more accessible.
Portable.
Yeah. On there as well as the countdown to election. So as soon as the Prime Minister mentions that date, you will have a timer going on. You'll get notifications reminding you as to check the list, come and get registered, that kind of stuff.
All the information you need
to be able to assist you. Yeah. And accessing the app, Kenya.
Right now, we did a soft launch because we have not developed it to accommodate iOS users, Android users. So it's available for iPhone users. Sorry, it's available for Android users. We're finalizing it for iPhone users. So you get it on the Google Play Store for Android users right now. It's St. Lucia Electoral. You just type this in and it's ready available to download.
And with absolutely no cost.
No cost, yeah.
So you'll be able to get that. And of course, to give you that constant guidance.
Yes, we would.
The constant guidance.
Any updates, it would be able
and a constant flow of information as well, notifications coming in as well. So if something changes, you'll get it instantly. You would know.
And Lisa, I must say, around that time, everything for us is a little more active. Our Facebook page, our website, our mobile app, because you find persons want to be abreast of what's happening around.
So have you, and we know that yes, COVID, and it's going to be with us for quite some time to come. How was coming in? You do have the mobile, which is quite good at this point for you to have the mobile services for registration. But in terms of the work of the department, how has it been impacted? Has it slowed you down in any way?
For us, it has slowed us down a little because especially with our frontline staff members, we had to be doing rotation because we had to keep within the 6 feet distancing and the amount of persons that we receive on a daily basis. But overall, I mean, like I said, we always in preparation mode. Everything is always on the go. We always, but in terms, and that's the reason why we did the centers. So from last year, September to December, we were actually giving the services on a weekend. not just Monday to Friday, but we extended it on the weekend. So we know with COVID, you might not want to come during the week. So you had Saturday, you had Sunday to come and do that kind of thing. Because we don't want a crowd, we don't want persons to feel uncomfortable, and we do a lot of PR during that time too, so persons can really access the service. What is a little disadvantage for us is, we used to do like a bedridden service. Those persons that they
the shut-in.
Right, the shut-in. We used to go to their homes because you want to make sure that that person is bedridden, and we used to go to their homes. But what we have been doing now is send the staff member to those homes anymore. So that's a little disadvantage for some people. And we would only do a reprint for those more senior. It's a little disadvantage for the younger ones, but what we tell them is, give us a time and a day they can come, because we try to encourage them, especially, sometimes you have a bedridden person, but you're heading to the hospital. So we tell them, try to do one trip. Organize with us. On the day you're heading to the hospital, you do one-stop shop. So we just come, you wheel the person in, we do whatever, and you go about your business, and we finish the process.
Now, does the same apply for someone who is disabled and is and confined in terms of the wheelchair individuals,
Yes.
or they simply not mobile?
Well, what we do,
Spina bifida and these
for those
kind of
persons,
conditions.
yeah, those persons in the wheelchair and those kind of conditions, like I tell you, like on a case by case, they cannot even go anywhere with the person, and it all depends. We reach out to everybody.
And registration for anyone must be done in person.
Yes,
Correct?
yes.
Now, the ID card expires.
Yes, 10 years.
So I think that sometimes people are not aware that,
Oh no, you're not
because
aware at
people
all.
do end up having expired ID cards, walking
in
around
possession.
with, unaware that it has that expiration.
Yes. Another.
So what happens when your ID card has expired?
Well, again, you come in and we do a renewal.
Is that an easier process? Do you still need to go back to the NIC?
No, you do not have to. You do not have to, because most of the times, Lisa, if you appeared before us, you maybe would have come with your birth certificate. Your information would have been on our system, so we just do the renewal.
Only thing that changes is we recapture your photo, because you'd appreciate after 10 years that you look a little different.
People will change.
And maybe your signature might change, so we actually give you that option to change your signature.
And your address, perhaps it will change.
Yes.
Yeah.
That perhaps will
And
change.
that's the other thing too. Whilst you're doing the renewal, in as much as you may not have to bring anything, but if you're doing a renewal and you change your name, or you married during that time, the requirements say a birth certificate or marriage certificate, you would have to still bring for us to see where you changed the name to.
And of course, if you change address, so you've changed your place of residence, I should
you
say,
have to bring.
then you have to bring in the utility bill for proof of address. Yes.
But the other thing too for us, Lisa, we have something called an identity letter, and again, it's to accommodate persons. And during COVID, we find we use it a lot too. You have persons that come and they tell you, they just stole my bag. So what we'll tell them, don't pay the $100 yet. Wait to see if somebody will drop it there, or the bank kept it or something. But we have a letter that costs $15 with all the particulars on the ID, which is acceptable by the banks, because we had those meetings before, and they would accept it everywhere they go just to do business. So sometimes we give it to them for 3 months. Depending on the circumstance, we would give it to them for a longer period of time.
So that can definitely
and that would
go a long
because
way.
we have situation, for example, again, like we cannot come to your home, and maybe you had the long ago card. You are unable to go to NIC, you are unable to go somewhere. Once you can bring in those 2 pictures, your particulars are on our system, we prepare that letter, and you use that letter to do transaction as you please.
Okay. Now with COVID, we have a number of St. Lucians who are probably studying overseas. They may have gone for medical treatment and what have you, but COVID has somehow continued to derail what their plans were in terms of being able to come back home, and this being the election year. Many St. Lucians will probably want to come back home to exercise their franchise. So we do not, do we allow these individuals, if they need to renew that ID card, have someone, a family member, a friend, a loved one come in and renew for them?
Before, something similar to that used to happen, Lisa. But with so much that is happening, we have put measures in place. If your card is not expired, for example, you're overseas and your card is stolen, or you misplaced your card and it's not expired, We encourage you to go on our website, you fill out the declaration form in the country where you reside before Justice of the Peace or a lawyer, how you call them, or notary public, and you allow your family in St. Lucia an authorization letter. We have our own authorization letter like the registry. You fill that out and the person acts on your behalf. That is only if it's not expired yet. In the case where it's expired, again, on a case-by-case, the chief would deal with that situation. They would write to the chief, letting them know they're overseas, they don't have no documents, something has happened to them, and at the discretion of the chief, that would happen.
And so that it can.
Yes.
So it's for those St. Lucians who are stuck overseas and it is not.
And we get that kind of situation from the diaspora all the time. Persons are calling that's the only piece of document they had before them, the bags got stolen and so on. Some of them use the consulate to do it. The consulate would call the manager, which is our chief elections officer, and they do it through that means. These things happen.
Kenya, you were adding something?
No. Okay. She's on point with this.
All right. So and where on the website, how can you easily identify where on the website to go, Kenya, for you to be able to access the declaration forms and authorization letters?
All our forms are listed on our website, just under the forms, the tab forms. You can get all our forms from the registration form, change of address, change of name, the statutory declaration form. Yeah.
And then we have a bit of our history too. Election 51, we have a history book, the election. We have quite a bit of stuff on our website for persons doing the history, like I said, the statistical data. They can go there and get that kind of information.
I know for the registration, we said is voluntary.
Yes, it is.
But that data collected, because again, it enables you to have that sort of data, and the data is important, important for national building, development, and so forth. So encapsulate for us, Olympia, that data that's collected. How does it help for national development?
Well, again, we're not census. We just electoral and we deal with elections. Our data is confined to Electoral Department because we have the people's personal data, their name, their address, the date of birth. We have all of that. We don't really share that kind of information because when the person comes to register, sometimes when they come, they even ask you, are you taking the fingerprint just for you all and whatever? So you assure them that it's for electoral and electoral purposes alone.
Okay, so then, but it also helps the Electoral Department for its own planning, I would imagine.
Yes, for its own planning.
For its own planning.
Again, for the distribution of polling station when they're ready in terms of how many persons you can put in a polling station, etc. That kind of data would work for us.
Okay, so we do have people sending in questions, and we do have a question that was posted on our YouTube platform. Someone to explain the supplementary voters list. I know that in today's session we're dealing with the registration on the website, but the curiosity of St. Lucians, so if you can, I know, and we will be delving deeper into that aspect in a subsequent program. But Olympia, perhaps give us a quick understanding of the supplementary voters list.
I'll let Kenya do that one.
Okay. After we do one revised list, which is printed every March for the first of every year, and thereafter that revised list, every new registrant change of address or change of name that is done after that revised list is published on what we call a supplementary list. So these two supplementary lists, after it's been collected, the data has been collected, then forms the order revised list. So that's basically what the supplementary list is. Yeah. So it's basically more of a cutoff point for us where we do not have to print a huge list after March 31st. So we do two supplemental lists, two small ones that makes up a revised list in the next year.
Oh, so
it also helps us with data, like you mentioned, that we know how many new registrants came onto the list, is coming onto the list, how many change of address, change of name, that kind of thing. So the supplementary is just a small compilation that makes up the big list.
The bigger list,
yeah.
Someone also wants to know if the married name is not on the list, are they still allowed to vote, or how do they vote?
If the married name is not on the list?
Yes.
But once they have the ID card with the name that they have on the ID card, that's the name you're going to have on the list.
So if you are married, because, you know, just to be a little clear, if you got married within that year, or before the qualifying date, and you didn't go in to change the name, to do that name change, you would have to stick to what's on the ID that you have.
Yes, and that's what would appear on the voters list.
Yeah.
Okay, so you need to effect the change in order for that to happen. If you haven't done that, it means that you continue on with what is on your ID card. I know that a lot of people get caught up in that as well. In terms of the Act makes provision for what you call the registration officer. So can you explain to us who that registration officer is, what it is that they do, and so forth?
The registration officers would only come into effect, Lisa, like now. As we have the outdoor centers, you need a registration officer to man that center. And it would not be a person from the electoral office. It would be those persons who serve in maybe like returning officers, they do electoral work before. So they are at those centers on a daily basis. They go out there to sign on the MasterCard as the people in the office do the registration. They go there, they check the work, and they send it down to Electoral Department. They oversee the running of that center in the outdoor districts.
So that individual is separate and different too.
Yes, they're like part-time,
So, but an enumerator
will be our normal workers.
Okay, very well. Okay, and so the powers of that registration officer would be to oversee and to make sure things are running properly.
They would be signing on all documents as it relates to registration at that center, along with the staff as they do their stuff. We would have a senior person, a senior staff member overseeing the junior staff, and that registration officer would be the overall person at the outdoor center.
Okay. So as we come into our closing moments, let's remind the St. Oceans where the registration centers are and are the specific days, because due to COVID that you are operating and so forth.
Yes, well, we would like persons to really use the services, especially persons in the north. Although we actually tried our best, it was on all radio station, all medium, it was in Creole and in English, and persons are still saying they're not aware, they don't know. It was on our Facebook page. We try our best.
There will always be one. Right. And that's what I've come to learn in my years.
So we encourage them to use the center in Grosile. It's located at the Grosile Human Resource Center. We are there from Monday to Friday, 9 to 4:30. We have another center in Dennery. It's on the Richmond Highway. That center again open Monday to Friday. We're asking persons to use that center. We have our other center in Soufrière. It's next to the Wasco building in Soufrière on, what street is that?
I'm not sure the name of the street. Yeah.
But it's next to the Wasco building, and we're asking persons to use that service. Well, again, the mobile services we had done, we've done Miku, we've done Bellevue. As a matter of fact, now we are in Choiseul. So we don't know if we have time to go everywhere. We're trying our best, but with limited resources and with COVID we are trying to see how far we can reach with it.
And so, but between the centers that you've established within the communities, you have the mobile unit, and of course the central office, your headquarters,
our Beaufort main office and our Castries office is open Monday to Friday as well.
Okay. And are there, in terms of numbers, are you limiting the number of people that you serve or see on a daily basis?
We're not limiting, but in terms of our inside, with the 6 feet distancing, we just make sure persons are on the line. On like our sitting arrangement, where we were taking how many, we only take like maybe like 5 persons per, and then we continue. And the same thing, we work throughout our lunch hour. We have a shift system, so persons we work, so we know persons are coming, you know, from the lunch hour to run. With COVID, all the lines are long. We work throughout our lunch hour, so the place is open during lunch.
Just to be able to accommodate that.
Yes, to accommodate. And it's all our centers as well. They work through the lunch hour as well.
Okay. And so we will not be able, we established that earlier on, but just to emphasize that even though the website is there, the website does not permit you to do the registration. You can find out about the process, but you can't actually register online. It must be done in person.
Yes, you must register. must.
That will come. But
Kenya is anticipating that we will.
Yeah, we're going to get there. We're going to get there. Yeah, not as yet. But what I'd like to emphasize a bit on is that given that we're in the COVID situation right now, what would make the voting process a little easier for electoral and the public as well on polling days, that you ensure that you have that ID in your hand, that physical ID. You come to get that ID, use our outdoor offices, our main branches as well, to ensure that you have your ID. It makes the process a lot faster for the workers in the polling stations. Yeah, so just ensure you have your ID, come to our offices, we assist, we accommodate almost everybody, no matter the situation, we're flexible with that.
And what we want to dispel to Lisa, persons are making it look like it seems to be very difficult to get an ID change or to get your ID card. We want to dispel that, because sometimes my experience might not be your experience. Somebody coming, because sometimes we're on the line. I go from person to person on the line because of COVID when I see the line backing up. And I'm just going to say to this Mr., oh, you have a lost ID card, you need $100. The person behind me walking and telling, Ma'am, where are you going? Oh, I don't have $100. I see what you come to do is something totally different. So sometimes somebody out there might be saying, oh, these people, whatever. No, we want to dispel that. You come for your service, everybody have a different experience. So we try to help everybody. Like Kenya just said, we send nobody away without giving them the service. We try to reach you at your level. We try to find out what you want. Like I say, if we cannot reach you at that level, we can do a letter for you. We don't let you walk away with nothing.
And so there is hand-holding that is done. And
I must say.
Hand-holding to ensure that whatever it is that you need would be done.
And sometimes we even walk to the registry with some people, because sometimes you have customers coming, they don't understand what you're asking them to go and do. They don't know, they cannot find the registry, especially sometimes they tell you they're from down the coast, they're from Suzel, they come up by themselves. Our staff walk them to the registry. We do that all the time. We walk them to NIC. That's how far we go. Because sometimes you speak in the language to them, you speak in Creole, and they still don't understand, and they tell you, when you finally found out from them, they'll tell you, but I don't know Castries, ma'am. So by that time, we don't let them go all over the place. We walk them to the registry.
Right. And so we know that we had the situation where, you know, the birth certificate versus the baptismal and so forth. So, but for the requirement, it must be the birth certificate and not the baptismal certificate.
Yes. But again, Lisa, we are flexible. You come with somebody 87 years, 75 years, 90 years, the person is bedridden. And the only piece of information the person might have is the baptismal. Again, it's case-by-case circumstances. They might tell you that person's family died. They might tell you, we do something to assist that person. Because again, don't forget, that might be the only piece of ID, and now you need to show ID for medicine. You need to show this. So the letter would suffice. We give you, once your family can get the 2 photos, the identity letter would suffice. We reach you halfway.
And that's the important thing, to be able to make things easier for St. Lucians. And one other question with the birth certificate. We do have those instances where there may be errors on the birth certificate. So someone would have perhaps collected it and then only finding out, oh, well, my name has been misspelled, or perhaps the date of birth is wrong, or maybe one of the parents, the name is wrong, and so forth. What happens in that time when the individual perhaps feels that getting that rectification may take up time, and considering that we are in the year for election and soon to be called at any point, what happens? Someone comes in and they're frantic. What happens then?
In the year for election, it's a different circumstance, Lisa. On a normal way, somebody coming with the name back to front or name missing or whatever, we would have to send them and fix it and whatever. But at this point, we would have to explain to them if they don't have, because sometimes if you just do a reprint and you don't fix it, wherever they have other transaction, they would not accept it. So it's not our fault. So they would come back, even if we say, okay, we reprint what was there for you, whatever. They would come back and say they go wherever and take their pension, they tell them to do whatever, whatever. So in a case like that, we have no control over stuff like that. But the basic ones, the I instead of the E, we sort it out. We work with them.
Yeah.
It's a big difference from Olympia to Elizabeth. That's two different people. So we would have to allow you to go out there and fix it, because we don't know for true if Olympia now is saying her whole name changed to Elizabeth is correct. So we would want you to get the proper document to come to change it.
The other thing I could add to that is that given that we're in an election year, your particulars, if it's different, you say your name is, you went to the registry, your name is missing an I, or there's a different spelling to it, and for some reason you cannot reach the Electoral Department at a time, but your ID has, you have that ID, you'll absolutely be able to cast that ballot. As long as you have that ID in your hand, it doesn't affect your registration particulars, because your name is one thing on the ID, your birth certificate is a different document.
And because the important thing to that you're
registered number, yeah, that's the key thing. So your particulars are okay with us for voting, for the voting process. You move through seamless, easy.
And of course, because the whole point, of course, is for individuals to be able to have that right to exercise their franchise.
Yes.
And so there ought not to be any obstacles, any major obstacles in the way of citizens in order for them to be able to exercise that franchise.
Oh yes, and that's why in the coming months, Lisa, we're going to use every platform that we could to really encourage them to go out there, that we have made it safe on our end as it relates to COVID and how they're going to be casting their ballot safely, that they should not be afraid.
Okay. And so we do hope, I want to say thank you very much to Olympia Lionel, who is the Assistant Chief Elections Officer, and Kenya James, who's the Network Administrator. We've been discussing in the past hour, we've been speaking about the Electoral Department and its preparation for the pending general elections. We looked at specifically the registration process. How do you take that first step in order for you to be able to exercise your franchise? Because in order to vote, you must first be registered for you to be on that voters list.
Oh, yes.
We do hope that the information has been very useful to you. Just to remind you that this is the first in a series of discussions and programs we'll be having in collaboration with the Electoral Department as we go through for the pending general elections. Here at GIS NTN, we'll be very happy to be bringing you those programs. So for more information on what's happening concerning the general elections, the voters registration process, or anything at all, whether you want to go to historical data and so forth, you can always log on to slu.electoral.com. That's slu.electoral, electoral.com, so that you can get all of that information. Apprise yourself there. Go back, look at some of the statistical data when it comes to the election. See if you can chart any trends and so forth. It's kind of a little fun to do.
Oh, yeah.
It's a lot of fun.
Before you ended, Lisa, just a thought. This year, St. Lucia is going to celebrate 70 years since adult suffrage. It's the 70th year, and the first election on the adult suffrage was in 1951, October of 1951. So it's something maybe after, we don't know when is the election, but something maybe we at Electoral can observe. That's
definitely observe that, and considering too that constitutionally it is due within the month of October as well, so that may very well be something very poignant there. You are right, Olympia, something to look forward to.
And to me that's really interesting. 70 years
of being able to exercise that right, of being able to be the sort of we cast our own destinies in effect.
Yes.
There we go. So I'm looking forward to our other conversations as they will come on, and we're looking to very weekly be able to have some information programs for you with the St. Lucia Electoral Department. Once again, thank you to Olympia Lionel and Mr. Kenya James for joining with us. And feel free, as I indicated, to log on to slu.electoral.com electoral.com for all of that information. Go check to see if you are indeed registered, if you are on that voters list. If there are any difficulties, you can't find it, then you know what to do. Contact the Electoral Department. Olympia and Kenya and the others down there will be more than happy to facilitate you. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Lisa Joseph. See you next time.